Have you guys seen what's going on with gold and silver lately? Well, gold just made history the other day. It hit a record high of $1,933.30, and Bloomberg says it's going to zoom past $2,000 a lot sooner than expected. Bank of America says it's going to be to $3,000 in 18 months, and billionaire Thomas Kaplan predicted in a decade-long bull market that it's going to rush past $5,000 an ounce. If you're sick of low returns, hassle, and volatility, it's time to look at gold and silver. Choose precious metals with Noble Gold and move to an IRA or 401k this month, and you may even get a free 5-ounce silver America the Beautiful coin. This coin has gone up by 17% since this offer started in July. So click the link in the description or pinned comment below to go to noblegoldinvestments.com. Once again, that's noblegoldinvestments.com. Click the link below to get there, and remember, when you support my sponsors, you support this channel.
And I'm doing good. A lot better than the Democrat convention from last night. What a mess. Apparently you're muted, bud. Yeah, I can hear you fine. I don't know if everybody else can out there. If you can hear Red Pill, let us know real quick. Yeah, they can hear me, but they can't hear you. But I can hear you through Zoom. All right. Definitely a lot of nopes out there. I don't know how that works or not, because if I can hear him fine and he's not muted through the system, then that's just really weird. Yeah, he's talking the entire time out there for y'all. And no, I'm not about to translate for him out there in the chat. Yeah, I wonder if it's specifically on YouTube's then is it? How would that work? Oh, I'm talking to you, but I'm also... Yeah, he's talking to me in my ear, trying to get his mic to work the whole time. So it's kind of hard for me to talk while he's in my ear testing. So I'm not trying to leave you guys hanging out there, but he's just trying to make it work, guys. Yeah. Like I said, I'm letting him test his mic and stuff, because then it would just be a bunch of jumbled mess if I'm talking and we don't know if he's coming through or not.
All right.
But yeah, I have no idea, Red Pill.
I'm I'm going to have to start the stream over. I mean, I have to restart my computer. That's the only thing I can do.
All right, he just said he's going to have to restart his computer and try to get everything set up. So, guys, hold tight. Be looking for a new stream, and we apologize about this.
Oh, my God. They heard me. You guys can hear me now? Okay. Great. It's back. Man. I'm sorry. You guys think it's frustrating for you? Try being the person who's live on YouTube trying to get their microphone to work when there's nothing that you've done to mute yourself. Just waiting for Methods to come back in. Man. These are the days. These are the days. Well, Methods, as soon as I ended the Zoom call, everybody could hear me all of a sudden.
I mean, that's how it's always going to work, right?
Yeah. So, again, guys, I apologize. There was nothing that I did to mute myself. Obviously, the microphone worked in the beginning. I'm assuming you guys heard me when I was talking at the very beginning of the show. But there's nothing I can do. I have a new microphone coming, and until that time, I just have to keep praying that it works. Now, literally everything is wired in correctly here. My microphone is not muted. I don't have a mute button anymore. I got rid of it, and I'm just going to have to, everybody who is annoyed by me vaping, you're going to have to deal with it because I need it now. All right, so let's get back to the beginning of the show. What was I saying? We're going to be talking about a whole bunch of different things today. And one thing, Methods, that I wanted to address that we didn't even get into in the pre-show is the situation with Millie Weaver, because some more information has come out. And we said on Sunday that if more information was available, then we would totally address it. Now, if you're living under a rock, then you don't know that there was the arrest of Millie Weaver, her boyfriend, and her younger brother over the weekend on I believe it was Friday, the same day that she was supposed to be releasing her new documentary, Shadowgate. The Shadowgate has two people who claim to be whistleblowers who worked in the intelligence community. Essentially, I mean, it's stuff that we've all heard before. But it's just coming from new people, and it has some additional claims, basically, with some new names that we haven't really had in the forefront. But it was strange because Millie was at home with her kids. The police showed up to arrest her. They didn't have a warrant to serve her. They just told her that she was being arrested. She had been indicted by a secret grand jury. And that was all the information they had for her. Of course, they're arresting her on a Friday, which means that she and her boyfriend and her brother had to stay in jail all weekend long. There was nothing they could do about it. And then later that day is the release of her new documentary. That stuff is a little strange. Weird that they would go after her for these specific charges, too. It was domestic violence and burglary, and then some things surrounding those. Now, here's the really weird part. She was indicted back on July 20th, so it took almost a month for the Portage County Sheriff's Department to show up to her door and to arrest her. That's ample time to have a copy of that warrant, but it's also not something that they normally do. If you are brought up on domestic violence charges, those kinds of things, you're going to get a summons, and they're going to say you need to appear in court for, this charge or that charge. So very, very odd situation. Now, there was a comment on a YouTube video that appeared to be from her mother, and it said that there was a family altercation, that her mother had been filming her and Millie while they were having an argument. Millie took the cell phone, and then apparently they left. Now, her mother called the police, which is weird. Why would you call the police on your daughter for, nabbing your cell phone? You'll get it back. And then the police came, but then the mother apparently said, I changed my mind. I don't want to press charges. Well, unfortunately, in domestic violence situations and, when the police are involved in something, it's not up to you. If you report a crime, then they either choose to prosecute or they don't choose to prosecute. So Even though her mother said she didn't want to prosecute, they still went ahead and did it in secret, which is just so strange. In a domestic violence situation, or even just a minor burglary, which it is in name only, this is not the way that they generally go about it. So she was arrested almost a month later. She stayed in jail all weekend. And then to add insult to injury, on Monday morning, they scheduled a CPS hearing to take her kids. Now, I guess she was able to get out of jail. She was able to get her kids. Somebody set up a big GoFundMe for her. She's got almost $250,000, I think, last time I saw, for her legal defense. So I think she's going to be okay with that. But just the whole situation is kind of stinky. And her actual indictment did come out. And I found this heavy.com article, which did, as best they could, verifying that this account on YouTube was actually her mother's account. So until we have a direct statement from her mother saying, I am Millie Weaver's mother, and I made this comment on YouTube, and yes, this is the situation, we won't know 100%. But the indictment came out, and all three indictments against her, her brother, and her boyfriend. And it just seems like a lot of overkill for the type of situation that it is. And I guess that her mother even went and filed an affidavit of non-prosecution, stating, in a public forum that she doesn't want to prosecute. And they're going after her pretty good. So, if you look at it both ways, is it possible that they're trying to silence her for making this documentary that reveals information they don't want released? Absolutely. Is it possible that this was a publicity stunt to raise awareness for the documentary? I think that an argument could be made for that as well. But the point is, we don't know right now. I think it's leaning more heavily towards the idea that they are going after her because of who she is. Now, you look at other instances of reporters and people in the media being arrested. Methods, remember when that guy, the CNN reporter, was arrested on camera during the protests?
Yeah, that big setup situation. Yes. Yeah, I remember that.
That was a setup, obviously, okay? I don't feel like that was honest at all. And it was all over the place. Everybody covered it. Now, Millie Weaver, she gets arrested in a really weird situation, and nobody covers it at all, except for Heavy.com and maybe some other alternative sources like us. So I think that there is some type of political motive at play here. And the only reason I'm saying maybe on any of this stuff is because I think it has to play out. But I think it's highly probable. Methods, I don't know what you think about this.
Right. I've been paying attention to what everybody's been saying. There's some digging going on some of the people that were involved in this documentary, just because, we got to verify, who's bringing the information forward. I don't know, and I've said this before, I don't know this Tory chick at all. I don't know much about her. I have seen some, accusations against her that she has stolen valor. I'm not going to act like I know all about it. But there's enough there for me to question with the ties to InfoWars. We know they love their publicity stunts. Absolutely love it. We had Alex Jones drive up in an armored vehicle and made the news. So I don't know what to tell everybody on that. To me, some of it is suspect because of the timing. It's kind of hard to, wrap my head around how could they time to have a documentary drop with an indictment being unsealed. I don't know. Do they let people know first when it comes to an unsealed indictment always, or is it full-blown frog march type stuff?
No, when it's sealed like that, they do kind of pop it on you. But the thing about it is that they wouldn't normally do a sealed indictment in a simple domestic violence situation such as this. That is the thing that makes me think, there's no possible way that this could be a publicity stunt, unless it was a publicity stunt that got out of hand. I think it's one or two. It's either it was a publicity stunt or it was, a political hit job. And just simply based upon the fact of how much animosity there is towards people like Millie, and forgetting, at all who she works for or who she has worked for. She is somebody outside of the mainstream. And she is putting out a documentary that quite literally, if the claims in it are true, the people in that documentary are not the kind of people that want to be exposed. So, that's why I'm leaning towards the political hit job.
Well, I mean, we have to ask ourselves this question, like, what if she legitimately did something? Because we don't know, we haven't seen all the evidence. What if she legitimately broke the law?
Well, I have the indictment. That's the thing.
Right. But yeah. I'm saying, like, all the evidence, everything involved, what's the situation there? Because let's just say that, I don't follow Millie that much at all. She's done some good work. I have seen.
Yeah.
She was investigating, like, underground, like, organizations that are basically using children on the front lines of all this Black Lives Matter stuff and the protests going on. And I thought that was fascinating.
Yeah.
But let's just say that she actually did break the law and did something that warrants, having a grand jury and then the indictments and all that mess. Then she just got the world to help pay for her to get away with it, or get away from it and help her with the situation. So that's what I'm saying. Like, it's worth stepping back and paying attention a little bit more, because we don't know. There's it seems like a lot of moving parts that we don't have the answers to.
Well, I mean, just going strictly by the indictment, it was literally like a mom and a daughter arguing. The mom is filming the daughter snatches the phone, I guess drove away and came back, gave the phone back to the mom, and in the meantime, the mom called the police. Now, the mom said in that statement in that YouTube comment that when you call the cops in California, nothing happens. So she was expecting it to be like that. Now, Portage County, Ohio, I think it's a little bit slower going there. So they probably saw the opportunity to, go ahead and throw the book at her. But I got to go back to the fact that a secret grand jury indictment in a domestic violence situation like this is not the norm. That is not something that they would normally do. And, and as far as the burglary, she didn't actually break in anywhere. It was just the taking of the phone from her mom, and the domestic violence sounds like a scuffle in the course of taking that phone. So, it's just very strange all around, and to your point, I think that we do have to pay attention to it. We have to see how this plays out.
And also, I just want to make this point real quick. Sorry, Ripple. I also don't want to blindly accept everything said in a documentary because of this situation.
And I'm not saying that. I'm not the information in the documentary notwithstanding. Let's say the documentary doesn't exist. Like, just thinking about the circumstances of the arrest and the way that Portage County went about it.
Right. No, and that I can agree. You got to kind of set things apart and look at them differently. So I can appreciate that you're pointing it out that way. But yeah, as far as that goes, we'll see. I mean, I know that there's probably a bunch of people digging on all this stuff now to get to the bottom of it and true. So if it comes out, we'll let you guys know. Yeah. But for now, it's just suspect. Some of it is.
Yeah, and somebody said, isn't that reserved for felonies? These are felonies. The robbery is a felony. I believe it's a 5th degree felony, maybe a fourth. Tampering with evidence. Now, this is the thing, I mean, tampering with evidence. I mean, that would be like they're saying she destroyed the phone or something like that. Obstructing justice would be all three of them and the mom maybe discussing the fact that they don't want to press charges or that they shouldn't go after her for this. And either way, I mean, it's overzealous prosecution. Excuse me, I just know that I peaked. It's overzealous prosecution. Let
me address this in the chat. Abigail Puggle is calling me controlled opposition, and I'm paying attention to everything going on because of the timing. I had already said on Sunday, go watch it for yourself, make your own decisions. I'm just speaking my 2 cents, and I'm not trying to tell anybody to do anything. So that's how you feel about it, Abigail. I mean, there's a door somewhere for you to go through. I've just been trying to help the entire time, and I'm not going to sit here and blindly support somebody or blindly throw somebody under the bus when I don't have all the information.
Yeah. And Abigail, I don't know, maybe you haven't seen, but we will frequently try to take both sides of the argument in these conversations because I feel like we get more information when we do that. So, I'm going to drop the article for Heavy. You guys can take a look at the indictment yourself. And there you go. Go ahead. And to whoever made that Waldo comment, wow, that was original, dude. That was really, I haven't heard that before. Never heard that before. Okay, so moving on. President Trump made the unprecedented move today to pardon Susan B. Anthony. Susan B. Anthony, who I believe was prosecuted for voting as a woman, and her efforts led to the ability for women in America to receive the vote. Now, this seems to me like a no-brainer, okay? She has remained convicted all of these years, despite her death, despite the great strides she made to create equality for men and women here in this country. President Trump pardoned her. I could not think of a way that could be spun in a negative light, but I underestimated the left in this situation. Methods, I mean, overall, I mean, it seems like the reaction from the left is pretty negative on this situation.
Right. I mean, we were joking about it on Twitter and, you know, in DMs before, as soon as it was announced that he was pardoning her. The whole idea was like, how are they going to spin this? There's got to be a spin, or they just don't talk on it, but they can't help themselves. So they already, and it was within like 20 or 30 minutes, and they already had an onslaught ready to go. Do you have the Lieutenant General's thing pulled up?
Yeah, or Lieutenant Governor Hodge.
Governor, excuse me.
Yeah. She said, I was deeply troubled to learn that Trump went ahead and treated her like a criminal. Well, I mean, if we're just going by pure semantics here, I mean, technically she was a criminal because she was convicted of voting as a woman. So President Trump now has actually treated her as someone who doesn't deserve to be labeled as such. So she said she was guilty of nothing. Well, I mean, at the time, she was guilty of voting as a woman. I mean, that's just, you know, that's the honest-to-God truth about it. But here, let's go ahead and watch this clip right here of Kathy Hochul. She is Lieutenant Governor of what state? I don't know what state. Was that of New York? Rochester, New York? This is where it was taking place? Yeah, she was guilty of voting in 1872. We got to wait till we get past the commercial. Susan B. Anthony was guilty of nothing, she said. Okay, here we go. Hold on.
Is calling on the president to rescind a promise to pardon women's suffrage activist Susan B. Anthony. 100 years ago today, women gained the right to vote. Before that right was bestowed, Susan B. Anthony was arrested for voting back in 1872. Today, the president promised to pardon Anthony for that illegal vote.
I will be signing a full and complete pardon for Susan B. Anthony. She was never pardoned.
While some see the move as a positive step, Lieutenant Governor Hochul wants the president to rescind the pardon. Hochul is in Rochester today celebrating the centennial anniversary and explained her reasoning. Rebecca Fath joining us now from the Susan B. Anthony home on Madison Street in Rochester. All right, Rebecca, what is the Lieutenant Governor saying here?
Well, she's saying that it's wrong to play with her legacy. That's what local leaders are saying today, speaking against Donald Trump's decision to pardon Susan B. Anthony. Now, Lieutenant Governor Kathy Hochul said...
All right, so let's talk about that legacy. You know, I mean, by pardoning her, all he's doing is wiping her criminal record clean. And it will then be added to the history books that, yes, Susan B. Anthony broke the law at one time by voting as a woman, but due to her efforts, women were given the right to vote. And later, President Trump was, willing to pardon her to clear that slate. So she's, technically not guilty of anything at this point. I mean, I think that it augments her legacy, if anything.
Right, and I mean, I went around lefty Twitter to just see what they were saying to just attack viciously, and one of the themes that was coming out real quick was that she was racist. Of course, Trump is pardoning her. She was racist, and first off, how would you really know that? And I actually took the time to go look, and there's a quote in her diary. I don't have it pulled up in front of me now, but she had written in her diary talking about, basically about racism in general and how, there is technically a white privilege thing going on because you have to think about the times. And she was talking about what needs to happen to fix that is for the black people to educate themselves on what they should be able to do. right? Allow, they need to, take them, not educate, like get an education, but, they need to familiarize themselves that they need to have the freedom to do these things. Like they need to appreciate, the idea of that. And then she also made this statement that white people need to understand that they need to share their privileges.
Oh,
so this was coming. Okay. Yes, that came from her diary, and a terrible quote there. It's just coming from memory, but yeah, she was against it for the most part as far as racism goes, especially during those times. So we're at that point, and you can kind of tie this across anything going on, and especially 2020. Everything just gets lied about at this point. Like they're going to, any topic, it's now, this is racist, they're just making these accusations, and that's the world we live in. But it took me all of 5 minutes to find a diary quote. So, if you take your time and really look into it, it is what it is.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's pretty clear at this point that the left will latch on to absolutely anything they can, no matter how ridiculous, to try to besmirch the record of President Trump and to frame anything that he does in a negative light. It's not surprising, but at the same time, I'm aghast, okay? I'm just, shocked that they can continue to keep this stuff up.
Yeah.
Are you hearing sound, guys?
Yeah, I can hear that. That person might just be behind. I'm not too sure.
That's what I'm thinking.
On that. So if it ever happens, guys, just let us know real quick if his mic cuts out. And Linda Smith in the chat brings up a good point. Look at all the thugs Obama pardoned. If you want to compare and contrast, because that's what history is going to have, in the future, we're going to be able to look back and just balance the two and say, well, these are the people that Trump chose to pardon, and this is who Obama did or anybody else.
Yeah, their record's going to stand up against each other, and it doesn't matter what they do. They are in full-on panic mode. And, as an example of that, there's a couple of fresh hit pieces out by both Axios and the LA Magazine, Los Angeles Magazine. Now, LA Magazine refers to us as a conspiracy cult. They say we're devouring America. And then Axios says that our movement works like a video game to hook people. But now I think that that's a bit of a misnomer in the title, because they go on to say how it's closer to an augmented reality game. And I guess if you want to look at it in a certain light, it is like an augmented reality game, except that it's real life, and we are educating ourselves and other people to show them the truth of things that have been hidden from them for their entire lives. And the Los Angeles Magazine piece, it goes on to say that, it talks about the power of this movement. Now, was it this same article Methods that said this is the most powerful political movement that you've never heard of, or was that a different article that we don't?
No, yeah, it was the LA Mag one. They said that we're like the most powerful thing during this election, and as far as politics in general, but they still have to say that you've never heard about. Even though we know a lot of people hear about it, because they're even saying it on CNN during prime time, and we're having quotes by celebrities talking about it. Obviously, the word is out, even if people don't understand what it is or just confused and hear it in passing. It is pretty much everywhere at this point. I would assume so. Obviously, some people who try to live in their own bubbles might miss it. The smart ones that don't get on the internet as much as we do. But to the point of the other one, it was talking about us being like a video game. I can appreciate the comparison, because there is problem solving. You get to the bottom of something that you're digging. You do have that, like you're completing a level in a game, but they're trying to make it sound like, oh, it's just a game and it's designed that way to trick people into believing it. So, but like we said, they're going to have to keep coming up with new ideas to hit us on and new spins to go around it. So these are just the newest ones that I've seen.
Well, we've also got Alec Baldwin out there directly addressing the movement. And it comes in the wake of this roast. When did this roast take place?
I don't remember. Maybe the chat can help me out with that. When did they do the roast of Alec Baldwin on MTV?
I feel like it was at least a year ago. Well, no, it must have been sometime after last summer, because of the reference they make. Let me go ahead and play this clip for you guys, a piece from the roast, because this was insane. I absolutely love to see this. Adam Carolla is our guy.
Your brothers aren't here because you hate them. Your colleagues aren't here because they hate you. And your best friend isn't here because he hung himself in a Manhattan prison cell.
Too soon.
What do you miss more, the plane or the island? Yeah. Alec, your brothers...
What do you miss more, the plane or the island? And just dead silence in the crowd, you know, just the, ooh, that hurt. I mean, this was like Ricky Gervais, you know, on steroids here with what Adam Carolla said. Now, I'm not going to play this next clip, but I'm just going to show you, you know, Alec Baldwin sitting there, you know, talking to his video diary in his backyard. And there's a claim going around that Alec was on Lolita Express. Now, the only place I've ever seen it was a distilled list of the flight logs. And I have seen people sharing that information, and I've seen stuff in there that I know is not true. So the only thing that I'm going to trust is the actual flight log itself. I have never seen Alec Baldwin's name in there, but I've never looked for it. But Alec Baldwin, it's apparently being said enough, and I think after, you know, Adam Carolla made that comment there, that probably had something to do with amplifying it. But, you know, he's directly answered and said that he never met Jeffrey. He was never on the plane. He never went to the island. But if anybody out there has a copy of those flight logs and can pour through there and highlight Alec Baldwin's name, I would absolutely love that. That's something I didn't have time to do before the show. But, you know, I mean, one of the people who definitely was on that plane and definitely on that island is former President Bill Clinton. Now, we've got some new pictures of him here.
Real quick, I see people in the chat asking for that link. I'm going to drop one of the tweets. It's in the thread. It's got both the ones that he's talking about.
Okay. So this is a new picture from 2002, and this is one of the victims of Jeffrey right there, giving Bill Clinton a massage. Now, here is another picture. I don't know who took these photos. Maybe that was Shantae Davies. She was 22 years old at the time, but, I mean, it places him in close proximity. Now, here's another picture of them together. We've seen this image many times before. That's been on the board. But, you know, Bill Clinton likes to pretend that he's totally innocent in this whole situation, and he wasn't there, and, you know, the flight logs lie. But I think we all know that he was there, and he's been placed there by witnesses. You know, I don't know where these images are. It looks like they're in an airport, probably in the private area because they're flying in a private jet. But I bet you that Ghislaine took these pictures right here. Let me see. Yeah, doesn't say where. Doesn't say anything else. We just know that they exist now.
Well, I mean, think about the timing of these pictures coming out. The article, and I'll drop the article in the chat for everybody too. I mean, if they've got Ghislaine in, and the rumor is that she's going to talk or has been talking, working with them for a while, we now get these pictures. Now you ask yourself, who's sitting there like, oh man, he's getting a massage. I need to take a picture of this real quick. I always wonder about that. Like when certain pictures show up, what's the intention behind taking those pictures? Unless you're collecting evidence on them as far as blackmail goes and stuff like that.
Definitely.
Because otherwise, I mean, why he's just getting a massage? You know, what's the point?
All right, Switch says the flight logs I saw had Baldwin on it if they're real. Now, you can tell that they're real if they are that Xeroxed copy with, you know, the database grid, basically, with the people's names. So, you know, if anybody has that, please go ahead and send that over to me. Chef Matt says something about a new post. I mean, we had a new post last night. I suppose it's worth going over since I just mentioned the posts. Right. But it's post 4621, and it is on the, what is it, Projected Comms board? Was that it?
Project DComs.
Yeah, Project DComs, sorry. And it is the first name in the placeholder list. Remember, we have these 6 placeholder numbers, the first one being Kevin Kleinsmith, which is 11-3. K is the 11th letter, C is the 3rd letter. And that lines up with one of those very first posts that we saw, the first indictment, 11-3. Here it is. I mean, it's come to pass. And I would think that that is a really difficult thing for somebody who's LARPing to do. We've gotten quite a few, like, direct proofs. Like, we're tracing it all the way back to the beginning now. Kevin Kleinsmith is right there. Who's next after Kevin Kleinsmith? You know, and I saw somebody post something earlier today. They've kind of portrayed Kevin Kleinsmith as this low-level FBI employee. You know, they've diminished his role in this whole thing. But, I mean, he's the one who said, Viva la Resistance. He's the one who said that he was destroying the Republic. He's making the Julius Caesar references. Clearly, he's the one who edited that email from the Clowns in America showing that Carter Page had been an asset of the Clowns in America. You know, I would say it is in large degree thanks to Kevin Kleinsmith and his actions that they were able to get those FISA warrants in the first place. Now, he's just a part of a larger machine. But Kevin Kleinsmith is not a low-level FBI employee. There's something like 35,000 FBI agents, if I'm not mistaken. And Kevin Kleinsmith was in that top tier. Okay, he was way up in the FBI organization. And, I mean, you just look at the responsibilities they gave him, allowing him to be part of the mid-year exam and the Crossfire Hurricane investigation. You know, he was in it to win it, and he was willing to throw away his life and his career to set up President Trump and the people in his orbit. And our favorite Anon called it way back in 2017. All right, so here we are. This has come to pass. We're going to have additional proofs in the coming weeks, I would bet. And Kevin Kleinsmith is only the first person to plead guilty. Now, out of these first 6, you're going to see numerous people from the FBI and the DOJ. And, man, I would just love it if one of those people ended up being John Brennan. That would be perfect.
Right, and I agree with you on that, but I think that they're going to be focusing on the FBI stuff first and go that route. Real quick, TL Spud is saying that there's no new post today so far. There's a fake trip code LARPing 17 on the current thread. That happens a lot, so if that's true, I haven't been on the boards the last few hours. You know, but I appreciate it, TL. I believe that you're on the boards a bunch. Yeah. But as far as the Kevin Kleinsmith goes, you're right, because, I mean, it's been rumored that he worked for a lot with Michael Atkinson. And if everybody remembers who Michael Atkinson is, he's the one that approved the whistleblower information stuff to allow the impeachment stuff to go through, because as far as the whistleblower complaint stuff went. So it's a small world how these things all kind of, you know, come together. It's the same people involved. But yeah, they would have had to have picked one that they trusted the most, right? To be in that position during reviews that they know are garbage, because they already knew what Hillary was doing, and they already knew that Trump was probably, you know, innocent in this stuff because the dossier was being fabricated. And they were helping with it. And it was funded by the, you know, essentially by the DNC and Hillary Clinton. So they would bring on somebody to do that. But as soon as that happens, I mean, think about what Sally Yates did throwing Comey under the bus when she first got the opportunity during that hearing. You know, they have no problem shoving the next person under. And that's why I think this is going to crumble on them, because they're not unified when it comes down to brass tacks. When it comes down to actual evidence being shown, what was shown to Kevin Kleinsmith for him to plead guilty? That's the question I want an answer to.
Hey, man, his name on that paperwork, his name, passing off that fake email. And Sean Anon makes an excellent point. I mean, they refer to other people being involved with this. Kevin Kleinsmith is not the only one. So if you've got people out there saying, you know, oh, great, you know, John Durham indicted a low-level FBI employee, it's only one guy. He's simply the first domino to fall. There are other people, many other people. We know all of their names, okay? All of these people are just sitting there waiting. And who knows what additional stuff, Methods is right, what additional stuff they showed Kevin Kleinsmith. I mean, the evidence we know about is only the evidence that they've released publicly, because it was already a lock to put these people away. There could be tons of other bits and pieces of information. Think about how many text messages, how many private messages. Think about, remember the Palpatine's Revenge, that Palpatine's Revenge chat that we've talked about on a number of occasions. I mean, how many other different types of secret communications did they have that they've traced back to these people? Okay, this is just the beginning, guys. We are winning, and it is going to continue to drop out between now and the election. President Trump is safely going to win in this November 2020 election, but we each of us have to make sure that we actually get out and vote, because we can't be complacent. We can't assume that it's going to happen. I guarantee you they are going to try to steal it. They're already setting it up. You know, I mean, they've tried asking President Trump if he would accept if the election didn't go in his favor. You know, I mean, everything with the post office, we're going to get to that in a few minutes. But, I mean, it's going to happen. There's going to be a lot of trouble between now and the election. And the arrests and indictments of these people are just, you know, one small portion of it.
Yeah, take the election out of it. I know that it's very much involved in what's going on in our real life, but take that out of the equation and think about what just happened. The lawyer is admitting in a plea to saying he's guilty of doing this.
Yep.
Now he is saying public, you know, that he didn't have the intention of doing these things or whatever, but he could have died on that mountain. Like, I wasn't intending to do that, but he's pleading guilty. And as we understand, when it comes to these investigations, when you plead, there's a reason that he was even offered the plea, because they had him cornered. They had him because of the documentation. So the fact that we have this break in the case, why didn't Mueller talk about this? Why didn't this come out during the Mueller hearing? Why wasn't it in the report? He was the one investigating all this stuff, right? He was supposed to get to the bottom of everything. Why do we have to find out through this? Why did it take Ratcliffe to get in there and Grinnell to get in there to release documents to make all this possible? So just take everything out of it as far as like the timeline of the election and think about what piece that is. Because now you've got, okay, if he changed the document, how many other people do that? Because they would have known that Page was with the CIA. They would have had to have known that in the investigation in general. Well, and, so they would,
and the FBI. I mean, didn't he work directly with Peter Strzok when he was informing for the FBI as well? I'm certain I heard that previously.
Yeah, I want to say I heard that too. I don't want to lie and say it 100%, but they would have figured this out. They wouldn't have been like, oh, the email said he wasn't. That's fine. Well, then you got to ask Brennan. Why didn't he step in? He was the head of the CIA. Why didn't he step in at any point and say, no, he's one of us, right? So you have you have to think about having a piece. Like, we understand, and we could thank our favorite Anon for putting this information out there for us to know ahead of time to help explain things along the way. But think about, in reality, what we now have handed to us and what's playing out in front of us. And just real quick before you move on, Red Pill, S. Smith in the chat is asking for the address to Aitcoon. Because it's been switched since they had a new computer. It's 8kun.top/Q research will take you there. As far as the new one goes, it's .top instead of like .com or something like that.
Hey, James Lumpkin in the chat. James, I got your letter last night. I got home late last night. I haven't had a chance to read it yet. I also got a couple of gifts, and due to everything that we were doing, I neglected to bring them in. But Dave A. sent me a awesome Trump face mask. He made it by hand. I'll have to show it to you guys on Thursday. But I also got an incredible oil painting of General Flynn. I mean, it's a print, but it's a copy of an original that hangs in General Flynn's actual house. So I'll show you guys all that stuff on Tuesday. I'll remember to bring it in and show you. But very, very cool stuff. All right, so I next, real quick, before we get into anything else, do you guys remember when President Trump was on Don Jr.'s show Triggered, and Don Jr. asked President Trump about the extraterrestrial question, and President Trump was kind of cagey about it? Well, Richard Grinnell tweeted out something to the effect of, of course President Trump, or of course Don Jr. knows about the aliens. What exactly did he say?
No, he was on the show. He was, I think, this Hard Factor podcast thing that they got going on, and he talked about it a little bit there too. I don't remember what he exactly said. So then they have this tweet here from Hard Factor, which is the podcast, and they were saying, because they brought up Rick Grinnell saying that to Trump Jr., and he even, makes it seem likely like there's more information going on, basically acting like how Trump did.
Yeah. Well, here's the clip. Here's Don Jr. talking about it, basically alluding to the fact that, yeah, there's something there, and they're just not saying it.
On recently, awesome guy, and he mentioned that you do know about the aliens. He admitted to the aliens, and we said we had Donald Trump Jr. on, and he said he didn't know if they were aliens, and he threw you under the bus, and he's like, of course Don knows about the aliens, so would you like to come clean?
That's what he told us, so.
Yeah, hey, listen, I tried. I do like a triggered campaign podcast kind of thing where we have some fun and do some, some interesting interviews, not just all political, like just throw some humor into it, sort of like what you guys do. And so I had my dad on, and that was my big question for him, because I wanted to know.
That's right.
So many people ask me that question.
I know, it sounds almost ridiculous, but it's actually the real question I want to know.
It sounds like a cute question, but it's actually, there are millions and millions of people that want to go there, that want to see it. I won't talk to you about what I know about it, but it's very interesting. But Roswell's a very interesting place.
That's right.
He sort of left it pretty ambiguous. Like, wait a minute, this wasn't
He knows.
like, oh no, he's like, it's pretty interesting what's going on there.
What
I can't
is
talk
it?
about it, but I'm like, wait a minute, that sounded like a yes to me.
Oh, yeah!
All right, so making no claims or representation about what the true nature of it is. Only simply the fact that the president, Rich Grinnell, and Don Jr. are all alluding to the fact that something is there. And, I don't know what it is, but it's certainly an interesting question, and I'm looking forward to getting an answer from the president, because I don't trust it if it comes out of anybody else's mouth. Obviously Don Jr. I would trust, Rich Grinnell I would trust, but if it's, one of these civilian people at the Pentagon releasing information like that New York Times article that came out, I'm immediately suspect about it. Okay,
well,
so
you have to think that Don Jr. didn't help the whole debate because he retweeted that clip.
Yeah.
So, it is what it is. People know how I feel about it. If you guys follow this channel, I don't really buy it. Aliens aren't my thing. I'm not trying to dog anybody that really believes in it or not. It's just really not my thing. It's just real quick. We got about 4,600 people here hanging out with us. 1.5 thousand likes. We appreciate you guys turning that thumb blue if you haven't, and if you have, we thank you for that as well. And thank you guys for hitting us up on PayPal, Cash App, all that stuff.
Now, Phil Rivers says that it was just announced that voting is to be via blockchain. Now, I heard a story about a proof of concept that it would be possible for people to vote via blockchain, but I haven't heard anything about it being announced as, being implemented. If it was implemented, then that would be a foolproof way for people to vote wherever they are. But it hasn't been implemented as far as I know. I'll go ahead and look for that to see if I can put it in our RPN tonight at 6 p.m. Now, getting back to the idea that President Trump is going to win, the Democratic National Convention was held last night, and it was a cringe fest. It was one of the most horrendous things to watch. And obviously, I'm not the only person that feels that way, because here's some numbers from the clips on YouTube for the 2020 Democratic National Convention. Michelle Obama's address at this time got 1.8 thousand views. Bernie Sanders' remarks, 1,000 views. Kamala Harris, 1.5 thousand views. I guess this piece with Agnes Moore, I have no idea who she is, 933 views. And then a video that's 3 minutes and 33 seconds long entitled Rise Up got 12,000 views. Now, I think it's interesting to note that the video that you can't obviously tell it's even about the DNC got the most number of views. And I have to think that the title for the SEO is really what did it. I think it's interesting. It's 3 minutes and 33 seconds long. They like to do things like that. It just goes to show that so few people are interested in what's happening in the Democratic Party. As much as people are upset with the way that President Trump has handled this situation, not taking over basically like they think he should, not just laying down the law. I personally think that President Trump has done the right thing, because what it's done is showed the American people who's on their side and who is not, definitively. These Democrat leaders of these cities and states, they do not have the backs of the American people. They are standing behind this flawed narrative that the American people as a whole realize is constructed simply to divide us and to stop us from reaching some type of peace amongst ourselves. Now, James Comey, he enjoyed it. He said Billy Porter and Michelle Obama back to back were amazing. Now, this is the musical number that Billy Porter and I believe that Stephen Stills did together. I'm not going to play the audio because we'll get a copyright strike. But I just want to show you how weird this is. First of all, they reverse the colors on the flag, and the theatrics of this performance are just odd. Look at this. Looks like a fallen angel right there. Some type of dark demon. And it's just a very, very strange thing to see. Now, Michelle Obama, her speech that she gave, basically she tried to throw shade on President Trump. We're going to go ahead and watch that real quick.
Honest and clear as I possibly can. Donald Trump is the wrong president for our country. He has had more than enough time to prove that he can do the job, but he is clearly in over his head. He cannot meet this moment. He simply cannot be who we need him to be for us. It is what it is.
So obviously President Trump can't be who the DNC want him to be, but he certainly is who the American people want him to be. Now, real quick before we continue on that thread, Julie Terrell says, what are your thoughts on the Google Maps landmark near Guantanamo Bay, backwards deep state's new home? Anybody can go on Google Maps and place a pin and name a location. So that's not like an official thing. I mean, it could have been somebody at Google that did it, but any one of us could go to some landmark on a map, choose some coordinates, and mark it. There was something that happened a couple years ago that like some property that was owned by John Podesta was labeled something, and it's a bit of a troll. I think it was hilarious. I love to see that when Methods showed it to me, but anybody can do it, unfortunately.
Yeah, I had that sent to me a bunch, and I don't know if it takes a Google employee or not, but that has been done before. That they turned Epstein's ranch in New Mexico into Pizza Palace, which is hilarious. But I've had that sent to me probably about a good 60, 70 times. And if it is just the troll of what it is, it's very unfortunate because a lot of people ran with it. Yeah. So with Michelle Obama's statement right there, she's trying to throw that shade on President Trump, trying to portray him as, less than presidential, somebody who is incapable of leading this country, when, in fact, it's anything but. President Trump has done a great job leading the country. America as a whole is doing so much better than we ever did under Barack Obama or Bill Clinton, any other Democrat president, and under a vast majority of Republican presidents as well. It's only in these Democrat hot zones where things are going really, really poorly. Now, obviously, the Democrats have done some damage to the country, but I think that the mitigation of that by President Trump has been remarkably successful in lieu of everything that they've thrown at him. That's my opinion. Right. And Lisa Anonymous in the chat says zero platform except Orange Man bad. And that's all I saw, too. I didn't watch it last night. I actually just did anything else but watch the convention. But seeing the highlights and what everybody's saying, it is those attacks. And then it's on how Biden can make things better. That to me is such a terrible platform because they're selling somebody that nobody's buying. I don't even think a lot of the left is buying it because we see a lot of compromising tweets and statements by people. They're like, well, whoever Biden picks, we still need to vote for him because we need to get that man out of office. It always comes back to attacking Trump. And that's the platform. And that's how you lose. Mm-hmm. You lose by just trying to get somebody out. And I know some people might have felt that way. I don't want Hillary in at all, so I'm going to vote for Trump. I imagine that happened during that time a bunch. But he was, if you pay attention to what he was doing and saying during those times, and has followed through with it. I mean, the intuitions by people and the hopes on him, to me, have played out. it's been good for us. But, what they're trying to sell to us with Biden and Kamala, it's so ridiculous. Like when I watch them saying these things, watching these clips, I know that they don't believe it either. But I think the Michelle Obama statement about you have to vote like our lives depend on it, you see that fear in her eyes. You just really pay attention to her. That's pleading with the American people. Now, why would you plead over something that's just 4 more years if it's not going to affect you at all? Go live in another country for 4 years and come back and fight when it's not Donald Trump. Why is it that important to you unless you're afraid of what's going to happen? And I think seeing things like that legitimizes even more so the investigations that we're not seeing and the actions taken that are unraveling what their intentions were trying to get Hillary in and what they were setting up with Obama and everybody else.
So our friend J.R. Majewski, in addition to having the Trump lawn flag that he's been working on, he's also a great video maker, you guys. I want to show you a DNC 2020 commercial that he made because it really hits the nail on the head and in a way that the Democrats themselves were unable to.
Yeah, right. Let's see the real commercial.
Trump, go away!
Excuse me. I have said the Secretary, exact same Senator, thing. Please. If we can raise it to
Secretary,
50 in New York or Los Angeles or Seattle, let...
When they go low, we go high.
I think that there's a lot of people more concerned about being precisely, factually, and semantically correct than about being morally right.
Forget about your dignity. Forget about all that stuff.
JR, you do such a good job making these videos, dude. You guys, I want to send you the link to this video so that you can also check out his YouTube channel and subscribe because he's got a whole bunch of really hilarious videos. And JR, I don't know, you're listening right now. Are your videos from Facebook on there? Because I really think that they should be. You need to make sure that you transfer those over there because they're pretty hilarious. What was it that... also, Governor Whitmer. This is hilarious. Governor Whitmer from Michigan had a hot mic situation. She was caught on her hot mic saying it's Shark Week, mother effers, something like that. And this clip of her with a hot mic has more views than any of the DNC videos or all of them combined. It was at like 71,000 views. It's up to 574,000 views right now. So check this out.
It's not just Shark Week. It's Shark Week.
She didn't realize she was live. And she said, it's Shark Week, mother effers. So pretty interesting stuff. It takes a gaffe like that in order for people to want to watch anything that the Democrats are putting together. Now, Methods, what is this clip of Hillary Clinton setting up the Trump loss?
Right. It was a few days ago, as my understanding, she was talking about how people need to be prepared for the idea that Trump's not going to be willing to leave the presidency if he's voted out of office. And she's already making those statements because, you know, if you set that up with what's going on with the post office conversation, how Trump's trying to stall that as well. He's trying to rig the election. And then now they're going to say, you know, if Trump wins and it's not gone, even if they did all the mail-in votes and he won, they would still say he cheated somehow. And now he'll refuse. And of course, Hillary's just out there throwing fuel on that fire.
Mm-hmm. All right, let's take a listen.
I don't want to scare people, but I want you to be prepared. I have every reason to believe that Trump is not going to go, silently into the night if he loses. He's going to try to confuse us. He's going to try to bring all kinds of lawsuits. He's got his crony Attorney General Barr ready to do whatever is necessary. I don't want to.
So Hillary Clinton setting the stage for the inevitable loss of the Democrats in November and their inevitable fight. Isn't it funny, Methods, how she's using projection yet again? You know, I think it's going to be the Democrats who are suing to get themselves into the White House. They're the ones who are going to be challenging any ballots that are favorable of Republicans, challenging to put their own home-brewed Chinese-printed ballots for dead people and animals into the ballot box.
Right. I mean, I'm old enough to remember when they said Trump was crazy when he said he might not accept the election results of 2016.
Oh, yeah.
And Hillary and all these other Democrats have not accepted those election results to this day.
Mm-hmm. So, you know, when all else fails, you got to bring out Tom Hanks. And now Tom Hanks has announced that he and Joe Biden are going to be teaming up for a grassroots fundraiser. So they're going to be traveling around, asking people to chip in $25 if they can. I think that it takes a celebrity to attach themselves to Joe Biden to get people to show up to these events. I would guess that with Tom Hanks in tow, Joe Biden is going to have an increase in the number of people visiting his events. He might even have an increase in the number of people who donate to his campaign. But again, in the end, it will not be enough. Too many people know exactly what's happening here. Too many people know about Tom Hanks. Let's be honest. You know, I mean, it's not going to make a difference. Yes, Barbara says from Greece. No, I believe he's actually going to be traveling back to the United States. He hasn't renounced his U.S. citizenship. He's just also been given Greek citizenship. So now, he can play both sides of the fence. Real quick, I just need to do just one brief thank you from Renee. She said, "Thank you for your amazing work. Surviving somehow crazy California shutdown. All salons are closed here. All other states open in salons but us. Yet strip clubs and casinos can open. Can't wait till the swamp is drained over here." I can totally relate to your frustration. How ridiculous is that, Methods? You can't have a salon open to get your hair cut, but you can go gamble or get a lap dance. I mean, it just defies logic.
Well, I mean, if you think about it, those are considered sins, and we're living in a world that's trying to create sin, and lift it up, or not create it, but lift up the idea of living that way.
Yep.
And I mean, we've had it, the secular world has been trying to change society and has been pretty successful with it. We're seeing the ramifications of it now. To me, it's like, okay, you have George Floyd and that situation happen, but why am I seeing clips of people twerking half naked in front of police that are just defending things?
Or sitting naked in the street, spread eagle.
Right. I mean, what's the point? Is that your art? Is that the word that they're going to use? No, I mean, this is filth. This is perversion. We are seeing evil rear its ugly head in the public. It's just, this was there all along. It just wasn't being used in this way. They just call it art. They put it in music videos and movies. They allow these things to happen. But when it comes down to, okay, now we need to take your rights away because of this, that, and the other, it's very convenient that you can go to a liquor store, but it's really hard to go to a church.
Yeah. And you've got people doing excellent workarounds with that. I mean, I saw a clip of a church that met, but they didn't call it a church service. They called it a peaceful protest so that they would have the ability to meet people, meeting with congregations in Walmarts and other public places. we're smarter than the left. I mean, despite all of their efforts to keep us constrained, stop us from practicing our religion, we are going to be able to get around it. And the hypocrisy that these people show, telling us that we can't worship, but that, a violent, awful protest, which is not really a protest, but more like a riot and a street brawl, that's okay. But the point about that is, and going back to my point that President Trump has done the right thing in this situation by allowing these Democrat mayors and governors to destroy their states, I think he's changed a lot of hearts and minds. And over the weekend, we had just a terrible, violent incident that took place in Portland. There was a man, a truck driver, and he saw a group of thugs beating somebody up. I believe it was a woman, if I'm not mistaken. And he stopped his truck to get out and try to stop these people from beating up on this woman. And they turned their attention to him, and they savagely beat him, nearly killing him. Last I knew, he was in critical condition in the hospital. And one of the people, the most savage people in the group, happened to be wearing his uniform. He was a security guard. He wore his uniform. I want to say it even had a name tag on it. And even after this guy had been savagely beaten and he was sitting in the street dazed, people had pulled him off. He ran back around and kicked this guy in the face, and he was laying there on the ground completely unconscious. And now this guy is hopefully going to end up in prison for what he did. And he made this comment on Twitter, like he posted about it on social media, like complete impunity, just, stating that he was beating up a racist or something like that. There's no way to tell what this guy's politics were. And certainly I think that he was a much better example of humanity than these people. I mean, he was trying to stop a woman from being brutalized. And in turn, he put himself in harm's way, and they went after him. So now, as a result, Mayor Ted Wheeler of Portland has been forced to come out and condemn the actions of the people in his city, the people that he had previously lauded as peaceful protesters, the people he had previously sought to protect and even went out and joined them, getting tear gassed. Mayor Ted Wheeler now himself has come out against them, condemning their actions. Okay? I mean, is that something you guys thought you were going to see? It wasn't something that I thought that I was going to see. But now President Trump, by allowing these people to create their own bed and lie in it, they now have to answer to the situations that they've allowed to unfold.
And Dawn in the chat said that I'm assuming I seen on Twitter he passed away. I saw that being said everywhere, and I didn't see any evidence. Maybe I just didn't come across it. I did take some time off the internet last night because it was getting kind of hectic, and I didn't want to go scorched earth personally. But I did hear this morning while I was drinking coffee with Fox News in the background, they were talking about this situation and didn't say anything about the guy being dead. So okay. I don't know about that. We would actually like to get that update. If they're hearing he's in the hospital, he's in better condition, or if he's in a coma, any of that, please send us this information, because if he has not been, if he's not deceased, then I watched that go crazy yesterday. And that's a part of the problem that I'm saying. That's a longer discussion for another day about how things take off like that when it's not really sourced correctly.
Yeah.
But that's all I know. If he is, the whole situation is unfortunate regardless, but I hope he lives.
Lots of people here saying that he is alive. It was retracted. He's not dead. The guy who savagely beat him, his name was Marquise Love. People also saying it was a trans woman. If it was, I don't know. Either way, I don't think anybody deserves to get beat in the street by a raging mob, despite whoever they are. But the situation, is just, it's horrible. And it's gotten to this point where it can no longer be ignored. The fact that Ted Wheeler is coming out and condemning it, it's gotten out of hand. I mean, it's been out of hand for a long time. I mean, it's been nightly unrest in Portland for months now, and in other cities as well. So how many of those people in Portland do you think are going to vote Democrat come the election? I mean, Oregon hasn't been a Republican. They haven't voted Republican in over a decade. You know, I mean, it would be a pretty wild sight if these people just say enough is enough. I'm voting for President Trump because we need to restore law and order. And people like Ted Wheeler, people like Gavin Newsom, you know, they're not going to do it. I think that, you know, many, if not most people across the United States have had their fill of violence and destruction. And, you know, President Trump, he was speaking over the weekend and, you know, he was, you know, talking about all of these places, you know, Minneapolis, it's another one that's been hit really hard. You know, over $1 billion in damages to businesses, minority-owned businesses. None of those people are going to vote Democrat. All of these people are going to vote for President Trump. And if you want to get on an even more technical level, President Trump, as the president of our United States, that's the federal branch of government. You know, it's up to the governors and it's up to the mayors to protect their cities and their states. President Trump has a much larger picture that he has to oversee. Yes, he can send in the National Guard, but we all know that as soon as he sends in the National Guard, before people like Ted Wheeler are calling for it, they would have used it against him. And then the mainstream media would have been filled with nothing but hit pieces calling President Trump a dictator.
Right. And I totally agree with you. Just real quick, CR Greenstar in the chat, good to see you, bud, is asking that, you know, that I listen to Fox News. Like that's curious. Like, yeah, I pick on it a lot and I don't like watching it. I catch the mornings when I'm just drinking coffee. I just have it on the background just to kind of wake up and see what the narratives are getting, you know, spilled out for the day. What did I miss over the night? You know, at least certain things about it. But yeah, as far as that goes, I turn it off quickly after, or I just listen to music and stuff like that.
Yeah. So the other big news coming up here, something that we need to watch out for because it's been in the media, the Democrats attacking the president, making claims that the federal government is removing mailboxes so that people are now disenfranchised. They can't vote. The Postmaster General is going to be he's going to be testifying. I believe both the House and the Senate.
Yeah, they just announced, as I understand it, they just announced he's going to be at the Senate on Friday, which I don't even know which committee is running that. So I'm interested to see who called him. But the House is going to have him next week. Mm-hmm. So yeah, they're trying to me, I like that because the Senate, I'd assume that it's Republican controlled and I'd assume it'd be a decent situation. And if that's the case, then they can go ahead and get rid of all the norms and ask the right, you know, all the things that are being attacked on him, you know, all the things being said, he can just go ahead and answer it there. And then when they try to spin it in the House, even more so, we already have the stuff out there.
Mm-hmm. All right. We've also got a new release from the Senate Select Committee on Intelligence. It's Volume 5 of the Russia Report. And Methods found a little segment in there, very short segment, but it's dealing with Julian Assange and WikiLeaks. And, you know, they're calling it basically a debunking of conspiracy theories. It mentions Seth Rich in a very, very brief paragraph here, just talking about the theory that he was the one who provided the emails from the DNC, all of that material, and they say that it's not true. But, I mean, it's a very, very long report. And it's going to take a minute for the entire thing to be poured over. But Chuck Ross at the Daily Caller is reporting on some stuff that's been found. Basically discussing, you know, all of the incriminating things in there. Christopher Steele was less than forthright when asked to come and testify. I think he did everything he could not to speak to anybody about the work that he prepared for the DNC and Hillary Clinton.
Right, but I mean, and I saw this in the chat earlier. Shout out to Conscious Abe. He's in the chat. Good to see you here, buddy. There is a lot of proof that rhinos exist in the Senate here, or this Volume 5 that came out, because like you said, they're trying to debunk the Seth Rich was only mentioned once throughout the whole thing that I found. just from doing quick search stuff. But then they also were trying to paint the picture that Trump wasn't helping the situation, what Manafort, was more involved than he really was based off of what we've learned. They definitely are using this as a hit job, and the fact that it came out today is not surprising, because we have now the DNC will have more talking points throughout the week, assuming the speakers are actually not pre-recorded.
Natural Lady 17 with a donation on Cash App. Thank you very much. She said, finally caught a live show from work. Awesome. Glad that you're able to sneak it in. So, the fact that they're going after the post office, I mean, clearly the post office has a lot to do with their plans to steal the election. And if there is some type of reform taking place at the post office, or, we don't know everything that's happening behind the scenes. But somebody in the chat mentioned that they're not going to be doing any additional changes to the post office until after the election. Doesn't mean they can't beef up security or they can't, hire additional people. But it's really all about the money that the Democrats are trying to siphon out of the post office and put into their efforts to allow people to vote from home, basically in the mail. It's going to spread out the length of time that it's going to take to accurately count votes. It will probably ensure that we don't have a firm answer on who is going to win the 2020 election until, days, if not weeks, after the ballots are cast. This is their last desperate hope at being able to control something that will allow them to steal the election. And, I fully trust President Trump and his decision with this Postmaster General. I think that we've got the situation well in hand. And, what are they going to do? They're going to pull him in. They're going to browbeat him. In one set of questioning, it's going to be, blaming him for doing Trump's bidding. And then in the other sets of testimony, it's going to be them praising him for streamlining the efforts of the post office. That's basically how I see it.
Right, and it's gonna be another aggravating hearing, because I'm sure that they're gonna be public. Won't be able to see them. And if I'm not doing one of these shows or preparing for them, I will do my best to listen, because they kind of if I know a lot of people can't listen to these hearings, and I can understand that, especially if you don't have time. But I get to at least get locked into one thing for a while and not focus on all the chaos going on, and just pick out pieces for everybody. So I'm going to try my best to do that. But Red Pill's right. It's going to be all, more of the same. But that's why, spreading these clips, spreading the information, pointing out how they're lying, it's just more evidence that we have to use, because this is a part of our campaign too. We're campaigning for the president, and this all kind of applies to it.
All right, now to the idea of the blockchain voting. Yes, the U.S. Post Office has filed a patent for a blockchain voting system. So the only question is, are they going to be able to get it, deployed by the time that we have to vote? Here is an example of that patent. They applied for this patent describing a secure voting system based on blockchain technology. This was back in February. So they've been thinking about this for a while. So if they're able to deploy this and get this out, and this is how everybody votes at home, I mean, it's guaranteed. There's only one vote per person, and you're going to have to be a U.S. citizen in order to get the ability to vote. It says the system separates voter identification and votes to ensure vote anonymity and stores votes on a distributed ledger in a blockchain. And while the patent clearly outlines the use of some kind of system based on blockchain, it does not offer various embodiments of the said system. One embodiment consists of verifying voters' identity by having them apply to an online ballot system. And once a voter has provided proof of their identity, the system would create an anonymous token for them in the form of a unique identifier. They would then also send the voter a mailed ballot, and to ensure there hasn't been any tampering with the ballot, election officials can compare it to the linked anonymous ballot submitted online. This is going to be a wonderful thing, I think.
Well, and I was looking, and I sent you the thread over there in your DM. It looks like Brian Cates, or maybe some other people even found it, that they actually filed a provisionary patent not this February, the February
last.
before.
Oh, wow.
So this is something that they were working on for a while. And I think it is going to help the situation for sure. I mean, if they're trying to pull things like have this virus go around and we're not allowed to be in public and scare people and do all that, what better way than having, a safer way to go about it? And can you quickly explain blockchain to people?
Okay, so let me see. Blockchain is it's an electronic ledger that God, I don't know that I can't explain it. I mean, it's electronic. It allows you to have a unique address that's on my wallet, I guess, and then you can have currency on there. I know that you can create tokens with your computer, mining them. That's about all I know. Craig Mason is the one that we want to explain blockchain technology. And Craig's going to be on the show again very soon, guys. So I will. That's a good question to bring up to him. I really don't know how to explain it other than that it's electronic and you can verify everything because there's a ledger.
Now you see why I asked you instead of me acting like I knew what I was talking about. Yeah. But no, he's definitely who we need to talk to about it, Craig Mason, because I mean this gets a lot involved when it comes to like cryptocurrency and stuff. Yeah, and that's his wheelhouse. So yeah, if anything, you got something to research out there if you're bored after the show.
Yep. All right. So what else did we have here? Oh yeah, we've got a new claim out of NBC Universal. Ron Meyer. Ron Meyer was an executive at NBC Universal, and he was pushed out after it was revealed that he was trying to cover up hush money payments to a woman. He claims it's an extortion plot. He said, I recently disclosed to my family and the company that I made a settlement under threat with a woman outside the company who made false accusations against me. Admittedly, this is a woman I had a very brief and consensual affair with many years ago. Now, this is another one of the situations we don't have all of the facts. I would say, he put himself at risk when he decided to have an affair. Now, was he paying the hush money so that his wife didn't find out that he had an affair? Was this woman threatening to destroy his career? I mean, if it was just an affair, then what are you worried about? I mean, this is Hollywood, let's be honest. People step out on their marriages all the time. But who knows? Maybe he doesn't have a prenup, so he didn't want to ruin his marriage and then have to give up, half of his fortune or more in the form of alimony payments. But it seems like a strange thing for them to push him out because he's paying a woman to not, reveal that he had an affair. It seems like it's a far more likely thing that there is more to these claims and more to the information that could be released if the information was made public. Now, I don't know why he would have told his company. I don't know why he would have told NBC. That seems like a private thing. It seems like a very private thing. What does your job have to do with it? Unless it was, maybe somebody that he had an affair with during the course of his employment at NBC Universal. And perhaps it was more than an affair. That's what I'm thinking.
Right. And we also don't know, like, what the happenings going on in that company. Maybe he just got forced. Maybe they've known about this for a while, and now they made their play to get rid of him. Maybe who takes his job is the next curious thing I'm about, because like you just said, how does this come out in this way? Why did it need to come out in this way? Mm-hmm. And if he says he was being bribed, then why didn't NBC Universal just make this go away? Just have him say, I'm just going to spend time with family or something. Yeah. Why is this out there?
Because an affair is nothing in Hollywood. These people are notoriously amoral. Why is it necessary for him to pay these hush payments so that the information is not revealed? There has to be additional stuff here, like photographic evidence, video evidence. Unless also it wasn't just an affair. It was like a Me Too situation. That's the only thing that I can think here.
I agree with you 100%.
He was there for 25 years.
Right.
25 years. I mean, think of how many executives, it's time to retire, Ron. You've had a good career. Who cares at this point? So there has to be additional information here that we don't know about yet. All right. So why are they putting Tom Hanks news come out every day to push it in your face? Well, I think Tom Hanks is probably trying to rehabilitate his image. Maybe by helping the Democrats, he's hoping that if the Democrats get into power, then any crimes he may have committed will just be wiped clean from his personal ledger.
Hey, we could take it a step further. Anybody that gets associated with anything going on with campaigns and stuff, if AG Barr's justice system goes after them during these times, they can claim it's political.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why you see all these people. Like, do you really think John Kerry wants to be out there marketing for Joe Biden? No.
No.
But he's doing it. That's why, like, look at the list of all the people speaking this week. Now any of them, if they were to get targeted by Barr or any kind of investigation, they could claim that it's interfering in the election.
All right, I'm just looking through the chat here. People saying some interesting things. Redeemed Patriot voted in person today. That's awesome. And one thing that somebody also said a few minutes ago is that the blockchain ledger, it's distributed. Like, everybody has a copy of it. So, to my knowledge, it's like it's unhackable. But somebody else in the chat said that there are major vulnerabilities with it. But I mean, who knows? We don't have the post office's program. It hasn't been implemented, so maybe they have made it so that it's totally impregnable and it can't be changed. So I mean, that's the only way it's going to work. I mean, probably when you get down to it, nothing is going to be truly foolproof. It's just a matter of what is the least likely to be hacked to what is the least likely to be faked. What is the least likely to allow for voter fraud?
Right. Voter ID. It's a good start. Well, that's
Yeah.
where we are. But I know that we're towards the end of the show. And before people start heading for the door, I'm going to shamelessly plug because I have a show on my channel tomorrow. Me and my buddy Scott from Woke Societies. If you're out there listening, bud, shout out. He just broke 100,000 subscribers on YouTube.
Congrats,
and,
dude.
I remember when he was not near that at all, and he's just been jumping, doing great work over there. So I'm going to drop a link to our last episode in the chat. You guys just make sure that you guys go over there and subscribe if you haven't already. I'm still hearing from people that they just found out that I have my own channel. So I'm going to spam this out in the chat, and I appreciate you guys checking it out.
All right. I just want to say thank you to everybody for hanging out with us today. If you didn't get a chance to check out the shows over the weekend, please go ahead and do that. Some really good stuff. Thank you to the two people who donated today. I really appreciate you guys. I just want to remind everybody my new microphone should be here in short order. I sincerely apologize for the technical difficulties. It truly is out of my hands. There is nothing more that I can do about it because I can't test it before I go live because it's only you guys that aren't hearing the microphone for whatever reason. There is no mute button. Just please remember there is no mute button, and I need your help to let me know when things are not going right. And, just remember, it is extremely stressful to be here on live stream and have things go wrong. So thank you for your patience. I appreciate it. Yeah, my ears are back. I had a problem with the new in-ear monitors, so I just went with these because it was easier and I knew that they would work. Unfortunately, I can't do anything with this stupid microphone yet. I want to throw it out the window though. All right, guys, please do leave a like on your way out the door. Thank you to everybody for hanging out with us today. Thank you to the mods for keeping the chat comfy. I sincerely appreciate each and every single one of you. Thank you for everyone who was here. And then don't forget, be back at 6 p.m. for another edition of Red Pill News. Good luck, everyone, and God bless.